JB, this transfer portal thing really is getting, I think, out of hand. I mean, we saw Nolan Sluka. I think he's going to Stony Brook now. That we got different players all over the country.
Matt Young's going to Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. I think we reached peak transfer portal weirdness, though, when you texted me last Saturday while I was freezing my butt off. So it gives a whole new meaning to cold open, what was going on at Mount Union. And then I saw this information about this guy right here, entered the transfer portal apparently, and he is going to Colgate now. He decides to go to the FCS.
Red Raiders.
Fitz, the transfer portal, you're really going to go over to the dark side of the FCS? What's going on here, man? Oh, hold on. We lost your sound. It was that good of a situation. No, we got you back. There you are.
Okay. Yeah. Transfer portal. Good. That's a good analogy. And yeah, I saw you out there freezing out of Mount too. I was following on social media. It was a busy day Saturday, but yeah.
Yeah, how were you even following anything on Saturday? Your phone had to be blowing up. I mean, you did respond to us pretty quickly when we reached out as things began, I think, to creep out there. And, Pete Thamel over at ESPN really blew your cover on Saturday morning for sure. I don't know how he got that info before we did. But anyway, how were you paying attention to anything on Saturday?
Saturday was a crazy day. It was my phone was a disaster. Saturday. So yeah, I was paying attention, but I was trying to pay attention to the games as much as possible, and it's just one of those days. But I did I appreciate you guys for everything you do for D3 football, and so I was quick to answer, but my thumbs needed a rest after a while.
my thumbs weren't working after a while. Well, listen, Coach. You know how we do this. This is our cold open, and so the one thing I'm going to say to you before we go into the real interview and the intro and all that stuff is, look, we're getting old. We're both. I'm 48. He's 50, I think, at this point. JB, we were talking earlier. We'll just say you just turned 40 and then some a little bit. Okay, we'll keep it a little clean for you. You got some more years of coaching. We probably want to go to season 20 ourselves at least. We've got 3 more years to go. What about you as JB someday, taking on the in the huddle role here when you're done, at Colgate in a few years? What do you think?
A little retirement gig to be take over for JB. That sounds like a plan.
There you go. Well, we got to figure out who's the new play-by-play in my place, because I ain't doing this forever either. But we got some hope here. Delane Fitzgerald, who shares your affinity for the head there, he's been our cold open before when he went over to the FCS side of life and everything else. So, maybe it'll be you and Delane. We'll have to get some different lighting, obviously, for you guys. So otherwise, people would be a little blinded. Listen, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way. I love it. Well, listen, we're going to have a good interview with you, talk about the state of college football right now, because I think we're seeing a lot of things going on, not just coaches and not just players, but, the entire entity right now, how things are changing and what made you make your decision. So let's go here. We'll go to the intro here. This is season 17, which... It's going to be the preview show for the Stagg Bowl, but also a review show of the semifinals for In the Huddle. Okay, what happened? Let's just start there. The season ends for you guys against Springfield.
Hang on a second, Frank. First off, Coach, congratulations. This is a great thing for you and your career. I know Colgate's a great school, not too far from home. for you guys, at least at this point. I imagine eventually you'll be heading towards Hamilton, and with the ages your kids are at, it's kind of perfect timing. But I actually want to step back, Frank, and sort of talk about, how we got here, right? I mean, because what you were able to accomplish in effectively 4 real seasons at Cortland was pretty amazing. Because as a Hobart guy, like I remember we beat you guys in the New York State Bowl in 2019. 2020 rolls around, blows everything up. That was your first year at Cortland, and like you started building this thing that became a championship program then. And I would just like to hear the story. I mean, it's obvious why Colgate wanted to hire this guy, but this is the reason. Let's find out that first, Frank, before we start giving him a hard time about why.
Okay, fine. Okay. Go ahead, Fitz. The stage is yours. Yeah. What happened? What led up to all this?
Yeah, no, it was. It really. Cortland is a special place, and I was not really in a hurry to leave here. I love the administration here. Very supportive. Cortland's a place that athletics is on the front porch of the university, and they're proud of that. It was just a matter, more of a matter of that it was Colgate, that it was a Division I school that is right here in Central New York, where I'm from. So there was family involved in it. Colgate's a program that I respect, and a school that I respect a lot, and spent a lot of time there as a young coach. And so it really was nothing against Cortland. This is, Cortland is an unbelievable program. I would say, I don't want to compare it to other schools in Division III, but this is a tremendous place for Division III athletics. And so when I got there in 2020, the first year, I remember doing an interview with you guys during COVID. I was in my basement and, locked in there working. Yeah. We couldn't come on campus. And that was our first year at Cortland. And it's just been almost 5 years has flown by, and a lot of great people and great memories. And, that I'm proud of what we built here. Obviously, it's been special. And I don't think it was just me. I think Cortland is primed to be a tremendous football program moving forward. And we have some outstanding players here that are committed to each other, and excited. I'm the biggest Red Dragon fan in the country now. And so, yeah.
Well, you and I talked during the post-game press conference, versus Springfield, more or less the question of, did COVID, for as bad as COVID is in the grand scheme of things, did it help create a bond that led to ultimately what we've watched last year and even into this year to a certain degree with the national championship and, the 10-0 regular season that followed and everything else? For those that didn't hear your answer, or, to the degree you might elaborate on it, I mean, what was the overall impact that, we have with that COVID situation in Cortland? Do you think there would have been a Cortland national championship without, let's say, the team bond that occurred and some of the different things with fifth-year seniors and whatnot that, basically developed due to it?
It definitely helped. I think in the moment it was tough going through it, but look, after we had that 2021 season where we went 10-0, Breeze Segala was quarterback and led us to an undefeated season. And that was the first undefeated season since 1988 at Cortland, only the second ever. I definitely looking back on from there. Yeah, I think that first year off, it just helped me kind of get in front of my players a little bit more. And, I was following up a legend here at Cortland, and Dan McNeil, who had been here for almost 25 years. So it definitely helped. I thought the shared adversity bonded the team together, and that tends to do that in athletics. And I think it was one of those blessings in disguise. As far as the national championship, yeah, Cole Burgess wouldn't have been on our team in 2023 had it not been for that. And that group wouldn't have been together. Now everyone else's group wouldn't have been together either. So everyone kind of dealt with the bump of that. But Cole and I specifically talked about that. We were actually in the van driving from Salem Stadium over to the press conference. We got to get in the van and get shuttled over. And Cole and I talked about that right then after the game, that it was, everything happens for a reason. And that exact group of players wouldn't have been together. Players and coaches would not have been together at that exact moment in time. And so, you just got to believe that fate, it was fate, and certainly proud of that team and that group. But yeah, it was a funny how it happened looking back on it, and those are memories that'll last forever.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. And that game was just something else. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see a football game like that, especially for a national championship, for a long time. One of the most endearing memories that I have from that game, after it was all said and done, was seeing you just in the middle of all your players, your coaches, I think it was for you, it was a combination of joy and relief that the game was over and you guys won. But then I caught you in this one shot here that Frank pulled up, hugging Zach Boyes, your quarterback, who really just had the most amazing game. He looked like Brett Favre out there, just making plays and moving the chains. He's now a finalist for the Ghilardi Trophy, which is quite a feather in a cap, which has been an amazing career for him. I mean, we know Zach is the son of a coach. We've had him on the show a few times, but what was it? Tell us a little bit about your relationship, because obviously him committing to Cortland and help. He was a big reason for where this program has gone and for some of your success too.
Yeah, I mean, none of us accomplished anything on our own, and Zach is he's a big part of. He knows, he and I have talked. In the waning weeks of this past season, once you get in the playoffs, any week could be your last week. We've talked a lot about how much I appreciate him, and we have a special relationship. I think just because he's just a grinder. He loves football so much, and he's in our office all the time. He's going to be a tremendous coach himself, just like his father. And Zach's just a warrior. I mean, you guys see the way that he plays out there. Even when he was banged up there at the end of the year, I mean, he was, fighting to the last minute. He's just a special kid. He's such a great leader. When you want the ball in his hand, he'll do whatever it takes to help his team succeed. And he's a front of the line guy. In the off season. He's the type of guy that you want in your program, because he's going to be the first in the weight room, last one to leave. He's going to be, at Cortland, we talked about getting your touches in. So high fives and handshakes and slaps on the back and, all that stuff. All that positivity creates a positive culture. And Zach was at the forefront of that. And, he's just a special player. And I'm so proud of him that he's a finalist for the Ghilardi Trophy. I think he's very deserving of it. And, this year was different than last year, but I think he played as good a football that we needed to play this past season. He played as good as ever and was a tremendous leader for us.
Yeah, in some ways, it's a shame that the Ghilardi Trophy doesn't, go out after the Stagg Bowl, because I think the result may have been slightly different based on his play in those last 2.5 games, especially. We'll even call it 3 games, especially. Last year, but we'll see, what happens with this year's, vote and everything else as well. Coach, I said a lot of people that were asking me along the way about you. I said, this guy can write his check anywhere he wants to if he wants to leave Cortland, and don't be surprised if he maybe does at some point. I didn't necessarily mean this year. I didn't necessarily mean last Saturday. But when I did see the news, I wasn't shocked. But I was a little surprised that it happened this fast, in that, there are other opportunities probably that will arise. You are well sought after. In a lot of ways, the Lance Leipold effect would have probably hit you as well. Granted, he had more Stags and everything else, but, people saw what you did with this program at Cortland, and they were talking about you. They wanted to be a part of what you're about, ultimately. So why the quick decision ultimately to go to Colgate? Is a perfect fit scenario? Did you just want to take the talk off the table? I mean, walk us through the mindset since that Springfield game, and how this all kind of came to be ultimately for you.
Yeah, I mean, my who I am as a coach. I've never been a Division I or bust coach. I played Division III football. I was very comfortable at Cortland and loved Division III football. So it wasn't like I was just I wasn't looking for a job, honestly. I wasn't looking to leave. It's just that the Colgate opportunity happened, and there was some interest, and football is family to me. I want to raise my children through the game of football. My children were here at Cortland a lot. I am very close to my hometown of Fulton, New York, which is just north of Syracuse. My wife is from Tully, New York, which is just south of Syracuse. We live in Tully currently. And so it wasn't that it was just any Division I job. It was the Colgate job was specifically, once I learned more about it, and it was very, very, very appealing to me. So that's really what it was. And it just, the way these things happen, it just comes together quickly. I mean, the way we joked about the transfer portal in the open, but the reality is whenever you're making a coaching change at the Division I level, the quicker you can get someone in there. Obviously, you got to be thorough and do the right thing, and Colgate certainly was. And I loved getting to know everything about their university and their administration. And it had to happen fast, just because there's not a lot of time to waste, and so there's really no good time to do it. The plan wasn't, I don't think, to do it on Saturday. But once word started to leak, and then it was like, we got to get out in front of it, and so sometimes some things you can't control, some things you can. I just know that Colgate is a great fit for me and my family and I, being right here in Central New York, and but definitely certainly appreciative, and I wouldn't be getting this opportunity without the coaches and players and administrators here at Cortland, and before that at Morrisville that I coach. It's just some great people. Like I said earlier, no one accomplishes anything alone. And so I'm very thankful and grateful to all those that have helped me get this opportunity. And football is a special game, and it takes many. So, but yeah, Colgate was a unique opportunity that was the right time and the right place.
Absolutely. And as a guy who has a day job where I recruit executives who aren't necessarily looking, that's always the best time to approach people with new opportunities in certain ways. It's better to do it that way than when you're actively looking for a job, I can tell you that. But one of the questions I've always wanted to ask you, Coach, and I know you didn't have a chance to watch any of the games last Saturday, so this isn't going to be cracking the tape or the analyst, but kind of looking back to last year's Stagg Bowl. You guys were able to accomplish something that very few teams have been able to do, and that's to beat North Central. When you were preparing for that game, were there certain things matchup-wise that you guys saw that you felt like, okay, we can stretch the field with our wide receivers, for instance, or things like that, if I'm a Mount Union fan and I'm looking at all these statistics of like, oh my God, these guys put up 550 yards a game, they hold teams to 10 points a game. Like, how do you handle a behemoth team like this?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. And thinking back on that prep, I honestly think if you think back a year ago to the prep, we had so little time to prep for them that I think it actually helped us. We played at Randolph-Macon in the semifinals, down to Virginia, won the game, had to bus back to Cortland. Then we were on a bus back again on Tuesday morning to go back down to Salem to play the game. So it was such a quick turnaround. I think, obviously, as coaches, we were preparing, but we didn't have really time to think and look at exactly how daunting the task was to play North Central. They're such a powerful team. And, especially Luke as a QB, I mean, all the different problems that he presents with his legs. And, he's the fastest guy in the field. That's the one thing that I was, what I didn't realize last year was just how fast he is in person. And when he gets in the open field, he's faster than any player that we had that we had. And so, containing him, and even when you contain him, he's still making throws. Their offensive line is tremendous. Their running backs are talented. And, Coach Spencer is a really good play caller too. So there's a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of challenges when you're playing in a game, and this is what Mount Union, I'm sure, is okay, North Central's a good team, but so are we. So just because they're good on offense doesn't mean that you can't end up with one more point than they do at the end of the game. It just, you got to have a cohesive game plan and, and get some stops. That's really what we knew they were going to last year. Looking back, we knew they were going to gain yards on us. We felt confident in our passing game that we could make some plays. Their front is very good, and from what I understand, their defensive front is very good again this year. Tremendous run defense. So you got to be able to make some plays. And when quarterbacks, looking back, watching some of the game from that Hope played against them a few weeks ago, I thought Hope did some nice things offensively in that game. The quarterback got outside the pocket a little bit. They used the quarterback in the running game. So there are some ways I think to, but you just got to play cohesive. It's never going to be perfect. When you're playing a team like North Central, the goal is to win, but you're not going to win in a dominant fashion, and you don't have to. All you got to do is win by one, and teams got to stay together and believe in one another and make some stops. Third downs is critical. If you can get them in third and long and then somehow keep the quarterback in the pocket and then, make some plays. But all it takes is a few plays. And once a team gained, our team last year in that Stagg Bowl game, at the end of the first half, we were gaining confidence going into halftime. And I think that was huge for us. And, I'm sure Mount Union will have a great plan in place. And obviously they have players that can make plays. So it's going to be a great game, and I'll be tuned in to watch that and very excited to watch.
Yeah, definitely will be. We'll talk more about the game, obviously, how we even got there later on in the show for those staying tuned. Coach, we did joke in the cold open about the transfer portal, but it's a reality right now. Between NIL and the transfer portal opportunities, it is not just to go into another Division III team, but now to go to an FCS or even FBS team. See Matt Young for more details. Going to Wisconsin, obviously, and he is built different. We've talked about it on this show. That we wish him nothing but the best, and that he is special. That player, I saw it before my very eyes down at Susquehanna. But this is changing the landscape of the game. Okay, for as much as COVID began to change things, and this lent into this when you really get down to it, this transfer portal scenario is becoming fast, furious, and almost uncontrollable for coaches at every level. Are you concerned at all from what you're seeing, as a guy who's sprinting over to FCS himself right now? But, I mean, are you concerned about what you're seeing out there and the future of Division III football based on this, let's say flexibility that's being shown for Division III players that show some decent stats to go to another level right now that they might not have considered doing in the past years? What is the state of college football, especially for Division III, from your eyes right now?
I think Division III football is strong and maybe better than it's ever been. I mean, I think some of the situations like the young man from Bethel going to Wisconsin, like those are things that are going to happen. If it's going to happen, it was meant to happen. And he's obviously Wisconsin believes he can play at that level, and that's why water will always find its level. I think in the next few years, this the volatility will kind of even out, I believe. But at the end of the day, the thing that gets lost, I think, in all of college football, but especially what I think a strength of Division III football is, it's about the education, and where you get your degree from is ultimately important. And I think that's why I am excited about joining the Colgate and the Patriot League, because I think that it's a blend of the Division III model where the education is important, where the name on the degree is important. If you're at a school that you love, let's talk about SUNY Cortland. There are degree programs here that are strong. If you want to be a teacher, there's no better place to go than Cortland in the Northeast. And so you're not just going to leave here and throw away your potential future, just for that. Because where you get your degree from matters. When you're a student at Colgate, you may have opportunity to transfer someplace bigger and play, and maybe get a small monetary NIL deal or whatever it is. But hopefully you're making a 40-year decision with where you go to school, and not, I think, if there needs to be a shift, what I would like to see is young men and families don't think about it in terms of a 6-month decision. Think about it in terms of a 40-year decision. And most everybody in Division III is not going to play in the NFL. Most everybody in FCS they all have aspirations, but just look at the statistics. The numbers. There are only so many of those NFL jobs out there. So, I think thinking of it in terms of the education, and if you transfer all these places, that's maybe the most concerning thing as a coach that we see is not the players getting paid because they deserve to get paid. It's okay. Well, once you spend that $50,000 of NIL money or whatever it is, when you're looking at an FCS or Division III or whatever, you're not talking about huge chunks of money. Where are you getting your degree from? How does it set you up for your future successes? And transferring, multiple times and knowing how the transfer credits work and all these schools, there's a lot that's getting left on the table. But I do think everything will kind of even out eventually. And it's that. I think Division III football is healthy. I've been saying that for a year or two, even before we had our success at Cortland. You could see Division III football. I think Division III is kind of a beneficiary of all this. The players are more talented than they were 10 years ago. And 10, 20, certainly as you go back, the players right now in Division III are more talented, bigger, faster, stronger. I think the teams are generally better. I think a team, whoever the national champion is today, when you look back 10 years ago to the national champion, I think there's going to be, the size and strength. I think Division III, the quality of Division III football is going up. And I think so. It's partly a beneficiary of all the chaos at the upper levels of football. There are some great players now. Maybe you get one or two that are scholarship worthy and get those opportunities, but there are a lot of great experiences and great things being shown in Division III football that I don't think maybe was the case 10 years ago, let's say, in terms of the talent and quality of football being played.
Yeah, being a guy who's been watching D3 football since 1992, I can say that I've had firsthand experience of seeing all of that time pass. And yeah, it's the differences now and even like 5-10 years ago is pretty significant developments in offensive schemes. More teams doing spread, bigger linemen. Just bigger, faster, everything. I mean, I totally agree.
It's kind of funny when we went to do the RPI game with lacrosse coming in, and still to this day, just thinking about the size of those players walking behind us. I mean, you got some big guys, Fitz, or had some big guys over at Cortland, but I mean, it's a different realm. And I've done it for what now? Broadcasting, it'll be 30 years next year. And it is getting bigger and bigger in terms of the size of players, and especially the Midwest guys that are out there. It is a different sport in a lot of different ways. I enjoyed, there was a Twitter post about they had grabbed shots of the Penn State team from 1985, I think it was. The photos that were put on the screen on NBC or whatever it was. And these guys look like they're 30 years old back then, but different development scenario. Now the kids look like kids, but they look like kids that are 300 pounds and strapping. It's like, what the hell happened here? 30 years is not that long. 40 years, still not that long, and yet it's entirely changed the state of football out there in so many different ways. Yet it's still a game we love. And I want to give you the opportunity before we let you go here, and we appreciate all your time as always. But I want to give you the opportunity to speak to Red Dragons Nation out there, and also to Colgate Nation, about your feelings on things. Any messages you want to leave out there. As a lot of people are disappointed to see this, but happy for you, and you can be both, I think, at this point, because they appreciate what you have done in leaving your fingerprints, your imprints over at Cortland. Coach, it's all yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just, first just like to thank the administration at Cortland, our athletic director, Mike Ertz, Eric Bitterbaum, our president, all the assistant coaches, and the players mostly. Cortland's a special place. This was not easy for me to leave. This is, I'm here in my office at Cortland, and going to be cleaning some stuff out today, and I'm sure there'll be some tears shed because of all the memories and special times. And I love Division III football. And, so not only do I want to thank all the players and all the people here at Cortland and Morrisville before that who helped make me successful, but I think D3 football as a community is a special community. We are the largest division of college football, and I think it's a special community, and because of that, it's about the players, and it makes their experiences special, and that's why I appreciate what you guys, Frank and JB, what you guys do to promote our game and to make it special for the players, because our players at Cortland, they watch the show every Friday. They watch and you guys are celebrities because of what you do, but you're putting them on a pedestal, and that is a special thing. And we really, really appreciate it. And I'm not speaking, I don't think, just for myself, but for I hope I can speak for all the Division III football coaches out there to say thank you for what you do and for making it special for the players and promoting the Division III game. And that part of it I'm going to miss dearly, and just the camaraderie. But I'm proud of our program at Cortland, and excited to see Cortland continue to be elite in the future.
I just got a text message saying, ask him who his favorite Syracuse media member is. You probably know who's texting me that, too. Oh, Mario. Look, you're still going to have the same favorite Syracuse media members because they still cover Colgate as much as they covered Cortland out there. So, you may have to share the venue with Syracuse a little bit more on the D1 side now, just in a different division of D1. But you're going to get plenty of folks poking cameras into your practices, games, etc., and they're going to take good care of you, that's for sure. We're going to still watch you, just like we do with Delane Fitzgerald. We watch him out there and, talk to him every so often. And so you're not off the hook. You still have to communicate with us, and we know where to find you if you don't, okay? But, Fitz, we appreciate everything you've done for us, even before the national championship, coming on during COVID, and, just helping build us as well. As much as we've built the student athletes and the coaches out there over the years, it takes you guys to kind of build us and, trust us along the way. And so when we're at a Stagg Bowl venue scenario, you see us coming your way, and you know that we're friend, not foe, and what we try to do. But it takes that trust to get us there, and that's the D3 family for you right there. Nothing but the best. Happy New Year when we get to it, and make some difference there too, as I know you will. And whatever comes after that, even if there is something after that, and I think there probably will be, knowing you are a success in everything you touch. Keep it going, and don't forget about us along the way.
Thank you. I will be following along, and I'll probably still be tuning in on Friday mornings watching the show. Safe travels down to Texas, and enjoy the game.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you much.
Yeah. Well,
Coach Curt Fitzpatrick.
I have to give a shout out to Molly Fitzpatrick too. She's always been a fan of the show and retweeting our stuff, and I'm sure even though he runs the locker room and the football field, she's running the show back at home and doing a great job of that. So we'll miss we'll miss Coach Fitz and family, but the Colgate Raider program is getting a great one. And at the end of the day, when we look back on this time, a couple of years, 5-10 years from now, Coach Fitz and the Cortland Red Dragons changed the paradigm in Division III. They changed the narrative that it's not all about Midwestern power programs that recruit basically FCS players to be D3 players. You can do it with a wide variety of guys, and there's talent all across the country, and sometimes a lot of it's from Long Island or New York. Yeah, baby, there you go. There's the ring. And yeah, that's really special. 32 years. It hadn't happened until that December 15th in 23. And man, I was really lucky to be there for that.
That's a beautiful ring there, Fitz. You get to keep that, but not that trophy behind you over there. I think you have to leave that, okay? just remember, leave the trophies, but take the ring.
Version. Right.
Oh, gosh. Bye. Oh, God, where do we go from here? Oh, now we're going to talk about some Midwestern programs.
How do we top that?
Despite the paradigm changing.
Man.
Oh, God. Listen, let's set the stage first. We all know what's coming here. Sixth round is the national championship game this year. First time we can ever talk about a sixth round, and also a delay between the fifth and the sixth rounds. It's on January 5th. It's a Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Central. Mount Union at North Central. Technically, North Central will be deemed the home team based on the NPI rankings because North Central is number 5 in the NPI. Mount Union is number 6 in the NPI. So, how do we get here? Ultimately, is the question. And JB, if you allow me, I'm going to put us into a double crunch time, essentially. And we're going to do it live, as they say. So, bear with me here, folks. This is always an adventure because I never note how long clips are. And so I'm just going to look like a blathering fool. What's new? But this is crunch time for Week 16 of the 2024 Division III college football season, the semifinals. And we will start with the Johns Hopkins game against Mount Union. 5 minutes into the game, you'll see coming up here is going to be the first score, and that is going to be Mount Union's Darnell Williams getting a 31-yard touchdown run here to make it a 7-0 lead for the Purple Raiders. Johns Hopkins would respond on an 11-play drive. 5 minutes later, Jeff Schroeder, the 1-yard touchdown run, ties the game at 7 apiece. So Hopkins bounces back pretty well from that early deficit. But Tyler Echeverry, get used to that name here, with the 13-yard touchdown run with 2:47 left in the first quarter, made it 14-7. Mount Union taking the lead again in this game. Ivan Merrick gets a 36-yard field goal 8 seconds into the second quarter to make it a 17-7 game, so Mount Union pulling away at this point. But then, just before the end of the first half, here is Cole Crotty. Get used to that name. A 9-yard touchdown pass from James Rinella will make it 17-13. Mount Union still leading at halftime, but Hopkins getting it closer. And they would start the second half with the ball. Here's J.P. Furman with a 48-yard field goal, and he has plenty of distance on this one. Would have been good from 55 plus. It's 17-16, Mount Union leading this game. TJ DeShields from Mount Union responds with 7.5 minutes left in the third quarter to extend the lead to 8 points. 24-16, Mount Union leading at that point. But again, I told you to pay attention to Cole Crotty. Here he is again a minute later. A 59-yard touchdown pass from James Ranello makes the score 24-22. The two-point conversion is no good. Earlier, there was an extra point missed, I should remind you, at the end of the first half. Sean Thomas for Mount Union, 3 minutes left, third quarter, a 24-yard touchdown run. So they have more than just Tyler Echeverry running that ball well for Mount Union. 31-22, they lead. 1:40 left third quarter. Frenetic third quarter this was, as James Ranello gets a 4-yard touchdown run. The extra point is good. 31-29, Mount Union leading this game. But who do you turn to if you're Mount Union in a situation like this? It's going to be, with 6:52 left, Tyler Echeverry, a 9-yard touchdown run, just gets across that goal line. He gets a 38-29 lead on the board for Mount Union. Big play coming up 2 minutes later, 4th and 6. James Ranello, as the snow starts coming down, he's going to eventually be sacked here and fumble the ball. No matter what happens here, ultimately it becomes Mount Union possession because it was 4th down. Loss of about 14 yards is what they put on that. And so Mount Union, we'll go to the ESPN footage here. A couple plays later, 54-yard touchdown run by Tyler Echeverry. His third rushing touchdown of the day makes it 45-29. Mount Union leading by 16 at that point. This game's over, right? Well, maybe not. E.J. Tellerico, a 25-yard touchdown pass from James Ranello made it 45-37 at that point. 3:26 left fourth quarter. Onside kick fails. Mount Union gets a 4th and 1 opportunity here from the Johns Hopkins 41-yard line. Tyler Echeverry is going to rush this ball and just get to the first down marker, and that would do it. Mount Union wins this game 45-37 to advance. Ranello, 458 total yards, 3 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. Tyler Echeverry, 3 rushing touchdowns, 183 yards on 25 carries. And JB, I'll tell you, what a game that was. Not many people thought they had it in them to that degree to, take them to that level in terms of Johns Hopkins. And nobody thought this would turn into an 82-point game, over 1,000 total yards between the two teams. That defensive struggle we all expected did not occur.
Yeah.
Take it away. What did you think of this game?
Did not. I thought this game was fantastic, especially when you think about, Hopkins had only been averaging, 16, 17 points per game for the first couple rounds in the playoffs, and then they come here and Ranello just puts on a clinic. And, if I'm a Mount Union fan, I would be worried about my defensive backfield. The secondary just got toasted by Tallarico, by Crotty. The receivers, Leger, they all had pretty big games, and Ranello just played out of his mind. I thought he did an excellent job, and if this is the last game of his college career, I mean, you can't really go out better than that, other than winning the game. I mean, he did everything he possibly could to get a win, but the offensive line of Mount Union and the running attack just kind of ground them down, and that's probably the strategy that the Purple Raiders will need to employ against North Central in the Stagg Bowl to keep Luke Lennon on the sideline. I know Tyler Echeverry got all the credit with the 25 rushes for 183 yards and 3 TDs, but really for me, that offensive line play, we had been talking about the Hopkins defensive line for several weeks now, and they controlled the line of the Mount Union offensive line controlled the line of scrimmage and really won that game, in my opinion, because the secondary for Mount Union could not cover these receivers. And in a way, you have to cut them some slack, because Johns Hopkins receivers are not normal Division III receivers. They're kind of like that team from Cortland in 23, tall, athletic guys that can stretch the field. Some of these guys might get potential pro looks when it's all said and done. I mean, Cole Crotty is our rookie of the year last year. He had another amazing season this year. He would probably be a guy. He's from Southern California. If he probably wasn't such academically focused, and at a place like Hopkins, he could get picked off by an FCS school. We'll see. But great game, and it was a shame that the second one just stunk by comparison. But
well, hold on. Let's not give this away completely. I still got a script to read here, so let's go to the second game before we completely take that tack on it. And here it is. This is Susquehanna at North Central, and this is really going to turn into the Luke Lanin show. We'll start this game with our clips in a second here. 2.5 minutes into the first quarter, Luke Lanin finds Jacob Parody, who runs most of this for a 50-yard touchdown pass, and a 7-0 lead, North Central. It wasn't turnovers, really. Just a lot of punts had to occur for Susquehanna in this game. 7.5 minutes first quarter. Here's Miles Walton with this touchdown grab from Luke Lanin, 4 yards, 14-0, North Central leading. Again, a punt comes in, and an 8-play drive develops. Joe Sacco. I mean, you want to talk about balanced offense, you're looking at it right here. 30-yard touchdown run, 21-0. North Central leading this game. Again, another punt develops for Susquehanna. Second quarter, 12:20 left. It's going to be Thomas Skokna, a 3-yard touchdown pass. Watch Luke Lanin here getting flushed and still having the presence of mind to find Skokna in the middle of the end zone. Good for a 28-0 lead at that point. North Central leading. 7 minutes later, a name I just mentioned a little bit ago, does it again. Joe Sacco, a 7-yard touchdown run, makes it 35-0 in the second quarter, but we are not done yet here, folks. Here is the defense stepping up. Josh Ehrlich makes really his first real mistake of the game, throwing this one. His receiver fell down, and Braden Garrigan with the interception returns it 22 yards to the 16-yard line. 2 plays later, you're going to see Luke Lanin finding Jacob Parody for another touchdown. Again, look at him just with the patience. 16-yard touchdown pass is good for a 42-0 lead. North Central. Again, 3:31 left, second quarter. Well, they get the ball back one more time. Second quarter, 1:27 left. Luke Lanin, 11-yard touchdown run. 49-0 is the score. there. The score at halftime, the final 66-0, matching the largest margin of victory ever in a semifinal. Rashawn Lamons for Susquehanna, 72 yards off 14 rushes. Luke Lano, though, 16 for 17, 275 yards, 4 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. Yep, he can't pass, that's for sure. Yeah, he just can't throw that football, as we said earlier in the season with one of our guests who shall not be named at this time. Yeah, not so much. 66-0. Okay, I know you got some things to say about this one and about some of how this score got received in D3 Nation, or at least a part of D3 Nation. I'm going to let you have the floor here as we look at the stats in the box here for a couple seconds. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part about this game, and we alluded to it in the prior Friday show, that there are times when teams in their first ever Final Four or quarterfinals, they just come out flat and just get rolled. And that's unfortunately what happened here with Susquehanna. Like, they just never got off the schneid. Josh Ehrlich got knocked out of the game early on. I think by the end they had a third or fourth string quarterback playing for Susquehanna. It was just a total disaster. Wheels fell off the bus. But what I really took exception to were the North Central fans, and I think they're a minority. They're not what most of Cardinal Nation is made up of, but there is a very vocal, obnoxious, classless minority that had the gall to call Susquehanna a joke, that they are no good, that they're this, and that they're terrible, and look how great our team is compared to them. I mean, that to me was just completely unnecessary. And I understand, like, you want to pump your team up and it's exciting to, get back to the championship game and all that type of thing. But to throw opponents that have really worked hard, that have beaten teams during their season that are way better than a lot of the teams that you've beaten on your way to the same point, it just lacks respect. It looks bad on the program. You think you're pumping up your alma mater or your fan base or whatever. No, you're making yourselves look like assholes. And so you wonder why a lot of people are rooting against North Central now in social media. It's because of people like this kind of quiet minority. Not quiet, I mean the opposite, this sort of vocal minority. But I did get a note from someone, I won't use their name, but they said, "Hey JB, I hope you're doing well. Saw some X post about fan behavior and wanted to share my thoughts. In my experience, the NCC fans active on social media represent just a small portion of the overall fan base. The vast majority are generally kind, generous, and welcoming individuals. I understand why the more vocal, rambunctious fans have caught your attention, and rightfully so. It's unfortunate the actions of a few overshadow the positive contributions of the much larger fan community." It goes on and on, sort of saying some nice things about the show and how they'd like to host us in Naperville someday. But yeah, I can't say enough about what a great job Coach Perk and the Susquehanna program has done this year. The games that they have won, at St. John's and other places where no one thought they had a chance. They came out in the Final Four and it just didn't work out for them. And that happens sometimes, but you can't tell me that they're on the same level as a Carthage, who lost to North Central 63-0, or North Park, who lost to them 69-0. They're not. They're still a top 5 team. They just had a bad game, and North Central had a great game. That happens in football, and for everyone who's saying how great North Central is in certain ways, it's true. They're the favorite in this championship game for a reason. But you look at their path to the championship, and it was easier than Mount Union's, to be honest. I mean, they beat Whitworth, the Northwest champ. They beat Hope, the Michigan Interscholastic champ. They beat the NUMAC champ, and they beat the Landmark champ. Meanwhile, Mount Union had to take on a John Carroll OAC team, Carnegie Mellon, the PAC co-champs, one of the best conferences in Region 2, if not the country. Salisbury, which is ranked in the top 5 all season, and NJAC champs. Johns Hopkins, which won the Centennial, another one of the best conferences in the nation, period. So, I still think everyone's going to pick North Central to win the Stagg Bowl, and rightfully so. They seem to be stacked and more focused. Like I said, our interview with Zach Orr was very illuminating, and that he kind of admitted that late last year they probably didn't take Cortland as seriously as they should have, and I think they're on a mission now to basically say, hey, we're going to go out with a title, and we're going to stay as focused as we have to.
Well, take a couple pieces here. First, I take it from a different tack than you in moments like these, but the same general resolution of what you had said earlier. For those fans that want to douche on Susquehanna in that way, you're also douching on St. John's. You're also douching on Bethel at that point. You're also douching on Cortland from last year because mainly same components of Susquehanna were still present this year. Just add on Rashawn Lamons in the backfield, and you see what you got there. But then if you're douching on Cortland from last year, you're douching on your own team too because they lost to Cortland. And so sometimes watch what you're doing or listen to what you're saying and think of the grand scheme of everything out there, because it does reflect on you in multiple ways, and that's not fair to your own team to be doing that. The other thing I've said it out loud on Twitter, but I'll say it here as well. I've been around this for many years. I've been on the sideline of the Stagg Bowl since 2007, okay? So we're talking now 17 years, almost 18, I guess, if you look at 2025, but 17 years worth of Stagg Bowl. And I've seen the fans of Mount Union doing what the fans of North Central are doing, some of them, again, the vocal minority out there. Mm-hmm. And so, I got the perspective to say to those that are, playing the whole, the third division is all wrong about this, North Central versus the world. Well, welcome to the top, guys. Welcome to the apex of Division III college football. It is you versus the world in a lot of ways. You are the favorites. Ethan Greenfield, I saw your posts out there. Got to be honest with you. You're the favorites by far. You're probably 2 touchdown favorites if I had to guess. I haven't seen lines, but I'm going to guess you're 2 touchdown favorites, which in a championship game is unheard of to a certain degree out there. So there you go, okay? Now, others out there have been a little more classy about it along the way. Wisconsin Whitewater I used as the example. They can be annoying at times, but they weren't, let's say, the line crossers to this degree that I can remember. And so you got to take everything in perspective here. North Central, you are the top of the heap. And so when you know the spotlight's on you, and you know we're going to read your stuff probably more than, let's say, a North Park poster or a Carthage poster this time of year, maybe understand you're under the microscope. And try to, as a fan, reel it in and say, hey, let's be magnanimous about the opponents we play. Hey, bad day, Susquehanna, great season, congratulations on getting that far, and best of luck in the offseason and everything else. And Coach Perk, stand-up job, facing the media afterward and handling it with class, which he always does. And then on the flip side, then prop your team. We are a very good team. Yeah, you are. There's no doubt. Again, you're going to be the favorite for that reason. Mount Union's going to have a couple extra weeks here to maybe prep and plan compared to normal. And so this could be interesting what that aspect of this lends to the matchup. But long story short, as you said, the grand majority of North Central folks I've interacted with over the years, first-class people, Midwesterners to the core, in those values that come with it and everything else. It's sad that there's a few people that ruin it, or, I always say it, the student sections that are in the end zones or the sidelines can get a little bit over the top, a little too close to the game at times, and even makes it uncomfortable for me. Okay, it's funny for the first 5 minutes of it, but then we're trying to do a job to, spotlight these teams. Don't make us a part of the game. We're not trying to be during the game, okay? You got to focus on what's going on in the field. Okay, yeah, I wear a funny jacket at Stagg Bowl. We raise money for cancer, but that's a little bit of a little asterisk toward it now that, the whole Craig Sager Strong thing and all that stuff. That's the only time we've ever really done anything to sort of try to shine a spotlight, but for a good reason to, build a fundraising. That's it. And so, long story short, take a look, get some self-awareness, and understand we don't hate North Central. I've picked North Central before, and y'all think I'm the biggest North Central hater in the world. I picked them in the Stagg Bowl they won in 2022 against Mount Union. Okay, I've been right more times than not in North Central Stagg Bowl picks. So understand our job is to pick teams based on what we think is going to be delivered on the field. It's nothing personal. It's just the way it is. We'll make a prediction next week on who we think will win the game. But, for those that want to get a little bit of flavor of some things, first off, looks like it's going to be a nice warm day with maybe a little chance of rain.
It's like Florida
24% chance of rain, which means maybe it'll spritz on us a little bit. 73 is going to be the high. After a real cool down next week, it will bounce back in the Houston area. 53 low, and that plays more of a role with an 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. Central Time kickoff. But to tail the tape, JB, I'm going to let you take us through this, as it's Mount Union, number 6 in the MPI, versus North Central, number 5 in the MPI.
Yeah, and I will say in general, both semifinal games had different impacts on the numbers from the week before. So if we look at Mount Union, for instance, their defensive yardage allowed went up, not surprisingly, given the output that Hopkins had, over 500 yards of total offense. And so now they've creeped over the 300 line, now allowing 304 yards. Over 200 yards passing, which wasn't the case, I believe, going into last week, and also over just barely 100 yards rushing. So that game definitely impacted the numbers there. We saw offensively, balance is still there for Mount Union, almost exact the numbers as far as passing and rushing. The rushing numbers went up a little bit given what they did to beat Hopkins. And DeShields really, his numbers didn't change at all, because he was handing the ball off mostly. He was managing the game. He did not commit any turnovers, so positive there. I think they picked up one turnover, so they're now +6, which is significantly lower than North Central. We'll get to that in a second. But then from an overall point differential perspective, just a little over 27 points. For Mount Union, they're averaging 43 plus points per game and allowing just under 16 points per game on defense. Now, across the board, we see North Central now at 540, offense, which is really high. The passing numbers bumped up based on last week's output, so they're over 300 yards passing a game now. And then defensively, 85.7 yards per game rushing. That to me is what this Stagg Bowl game is going to boil down to, in my opinion. Can this amazing rush defense of North Central stop the Mount Union offensive line and the rushing attack, which I think is really their best chance to win? I mean, without a guy like Wayne Ruby or something like that on the roster, Mount Union is going to probably have to lean on the run. And maybe with the time that we have, we could see some trick stuff going on. Maybe Noah Boudry starts the game to sort of throw off North Central. If he's healthy and back, he was the starter for most of the season. Maybe they do some 2 quarterback things during the game. Frank and I are generally not a big fan of the 2 quarterback system, but North Central may or may not be prepared for that. I'm sure the coach Spencer will make sure they're prepared for everything, but there's going to be some wrinkles both teams are going to bring into this game that neither will have seen before. So there's going to be some adjustments that are going to be necessary along the way. But as you can see, total offense, defense, turnover margin, quarterback, Luke Lennon's almost up to 40 passing touchdowns. I think he's going to break the record in the Stagg Bowl for most passing touchdowns in Division III history. Everything points to North Central winning this game. Even if you look at the average point differential, actually 42-27 would be a pretty logical pick for this, just based on where we are. If Hopkins can score 37 on the Mount Union defense, North Central might be able to put up 50. I don't know. We'll see.
So insight you get from going to games, and insert Logan joke here about not watching games type of thing, but you do learn a lot. And watching Tyler Echeverry run or rush through the line, and what his strategy is, he is a very patient running back. He will go to a dead stop for even a half a second while he's waiting for something to open up in front of him. And when it came to last week, the offensive line clearly was dominating the defensive line, Mount Union's to Johns Hopkins scenario. And so he could find those holes pretty easily by just being patient enough to let them open up. It's a different world when you have the defensive line of North Central you're going against with that offensive line, Mount Union. It's going to be not necessarily a full counterbalance, but it's going to be I think nullification of the advantage to a certain degree. And so the running back's going to have to show some prowess himself in that scenario to make space or to make runs go longer ultimately. I think that the strategy ultimately that North Central is going to use is to let TJ DeShields, assuming he'll be the quarterback, beat them. His numbers sort of lie because he was only a starter since the very end of the regular season. And so, the passing touchdown numbers aren't going to be there, especially with the playoff run. But, his only numbers of touchdown changing numbers from last week were essentially the rushing touchdown he had that you saw in our clip package earlier. Not to say he didn't throw some good passes, he did, and so that's going to be the interesting part of this. You're right, Noah Boudry is on film from the semifinal. A couple times came in for fourth down packages and gets the first down. So they will have to respect him and his availability in that game. But I think that's going to be where this goes. They're going to challenge TJ DeShields, I believe, to beat them. And if he can, then it's going to be a very interesting game. If he can't, I think it could be a long night, ultimately. That will be, I think, the focus point for a lot of people coming into this. And we'll see where it goes from there. And again, we're not speaking badly about him by saying that. It's just a reality right now.
The only other X factor that I could think of just at the moment is whether or not Rossi Moore can have an impact on this game, because like what we saw in the playoffs last year in the second half against Wartburg and then in the second half against Cortland, some of the pressure that got to Luke Lennon, his usually perfect completion percentage started to drop. I mean, I think he only completed like 1 or 2 passes or 3-4 passes in the second half of the Wartburg game. He struggled a little bit in the second half of the Stagg Bowl. I mean, obviously he did score several touchdowns along the way, but you won't see like a 16 for 17 kind of performance like you did against Susquehanna if Rossi Moore can get in the backfield and create some problems. Now, I imagine that North Central's line might overcompensate. They might put a tight end out there to chip on him to make sure that he stays at bay. But Mount Union's going to need somebody on that defensive line to give Luke some trouble, because like any other quarterback, including, you could, even as good as Tom Brady, the Super Bowls he lost, it was because of the Giants' defensive line. I mean, that they can make an impact if even on the best quarterback in Division III. So we'll see what happens. I'm just looking forward to being there and taking it all in. Hopefully, we won't get rained on.
Your second Stagg Bowl coming up in person. JB, next week we will have coverage, obviously, at some point in time. We are still establishing what that will look like, as, again, this is uncharted territory for a lot of people. We'll also see to what level we'll collaborate with D3 Football as well. They're still discussing how that's all going to pan out. So a lot of stuff to be done next week. I know D3 Football is going to release their All-America team, I should say, late in the week, but before Stagg Bowl next week. So be ready for that. Glardy Trophy announcement will come during the weekend as well. So a whole lot of stuff coming up. Stagg Bowl 51 will be exciting. The lead up always. The game itself hopefully delivers in that respect as well. But, stay tuned. We'll tell you what we're going to do as we get probably past this weekend. In the meantime, hope you had a great Christmas, great Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. We hope you've enjoyed it or are enjoying it. And Happy New Year. Be safe out there, everybody. We will see you after, most likely, the ball drops. And as we begin our travel, I'll be in Houston on Friday morning. JB comes in on Saturday. And we get to enjoy the game on Sunday under the lights at Shell Stadium in Houston. Thanks for joining us, and here we go. It's just 2 left, and for the first time ever, Week 17 coming up in Division III college football. We'll talk to you soon, folks. Thanks for joining us.